Good evening, everybody. It's such a privilege to be here tonight and contributing to what has been an absolutely awesome event. My name is Claire Russell. I am the founder of Mental Health in Business. I'm a mental health trainer, coach, and suicide prevention educator. Before I moved into the work that I now do, I had a long career in financial services, owning and directing insurance businesses for over 20 years. Now, as well as the work that we do in organisational mental health, I speak a lot on a range of issues relating to mental health, workplace wellbeing, and resilience. Burnout has been the theme of today. And it is, as you have seen, a significant risk facing businesses and organisations. It's certainly a very hot topic at the moment. The term burnout was coined in the 1970s by American psychologist Herbert Freudenberger. He used it at the time to describe the consequences of severe stress and high ideals that people working in the helping professions like doctors and nurses would experience. But nowadays, the term is used not only for people working in the helping professions, but for anybody that's experiencing the negative impact of too much stress. So burnout is characterised by three main areas of symptoms or behaviours. And they include exhaustion. People affected feel drained and emotionally exhausted, unable to cope, tired, down, and they don't have enough energy to do the things that they would normally enjoy doing. The physical symptoms that they might experience can include things like pain and gastrointestinal problems. The second area of symptoms that people might experience is alienation from work-related activities. People who have burnout find their jobs increasingly frustrating and stressful. They might start to feel cynical about their working conditions, the role that they're doing, their colleagues even. And at the same time, they may increasingly distance themselves emotionally and start to feel numb and disconnected from the work that they're doing. The third characteristic of burnout is, of course, reduced performance. Burnout mainly affects everyday tasks at work, at home, or when caring for family members. People with burnout are very negative about the things that they have to do, the tasks that they need to do. And they might find it hard to concentrate and feel listless and lacking in creativity. Burnout can affect anyone, especially now after the cumulative effect of everything that we have been experiencing over the last 2 years. I would suggest that good business leaders should be aware of the risks of burnout, and now more than ever, really. And as leaders, not only do we have a legal and a moral duty to protect the well-being of our people, but I would suggest that it's also good business practice, good risk management to identify and manage the risks of burnout in our businesses and in our people. Burnout, depression, stress, anxiety. Mental ill health costs UK businesses alone £45 billion per year. On average, across all industries, all sectors, mental ill health costs UK businesses alone approximately £1,700, so nearly £2,000 per person employed per year. And in some industries, that's as much as £3,500 per year. Financial costs aside, the human cost of mental ill health is simply incalculable. Lost earnings, lost careers, relationships and families destroyed, and in some cases, too many cases, lives lost. The good news is, though, by far the most influential factor in burnout is the organisational culture in which a person works. And I want to talk with you today about the role that leaders play in creating a psychologically safe workplace, an environment where we can all experience good mental health and well-being. I've worked in the corporate world for over 25 years, and I've been in leadership roles for over 20 years, managing huge budgets and teams of people. When I first started out in my career in financial services, I was just 16, and the behaviours that I saw modelled by those around me became the norm for me. All around me, I saw people working excessive hours under persistently high levels of stress, prioritising work over everything else. There was a work hard, play hard culture and very little thought to well-being or wellness or workplace, work-life balance. It seemed to me really early on in my career that that's what it took to achieve success. Back then I had no clue about mental health. The word self-care didn't even feature in my vocabulary, and they didn't for many years. So I worked hard. I never said no. I prioritised work over pretty much everything else. Like many people do, I began to wear stress like a badge of honour. If you'd asked me how I was at any point from my early 20s to my mid-30s, I would have almost certainly responded with stressed or something similar. With hindsight, I can see that many of my colleagues, many of the people around me were clearly suffering from the negative effects of stress, poor physical health, relationship breakdowns, misuse of alcohol and substances, burnout. But I was so good at glossing over my own issues, masking my feelings with yet more work, with alcohol and substances like many people do, that I didn't relate to what I was seeing around me. It wasn't until I burned out in my mid-30s and I had a breakdown that I really woke up to reality. By the time I'd reached burnout, I'd built and sold 3 businesses. I'd been a leader of hundreds of people, but I'd never really given a thought to my own mental health, to the way that I risked my health and my well-being, or the part that I played in the organisational culture within which I operated. I experienced a huge wake-up call when I burned out, when I had a breakdown. And of course, that led me ultimately to doing the work that I now do. Burnout was a thing way before the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's certainly true that what we've all been experiencing over the last 2 years has created the perfect conditions for burnout. New and additional layers of stress, constant worry and uncertainty, isolation, and for many people, new ways of working. For many of us that have been working from home throughout the pandemic, the blurred boundaries between home life and work life have made it really hard to switch off and really difficult to realise that we might be heading for burnout. Many companies now are in the process of planning or implementing back to work strategies or new ways of working. For some, it's back to the office as usual, and for others, they're taking a more hybrid approach. There's no doubt that most people now want flexibility in how they work. They want to be consulted about any changes that are going to be made to their business or the way that they're working. Imposing a back to work plan on already burned out employees that fails to take their needs into consideration is only going to make them feel more stressed and likely to lead to attrition. Business leaders must approach back to work with a collaborative, engagement strategy. They need to find out where and when their people can be most productive and then plan a way forward together. The organisational culture in any business or any workplace, the set of commonly held assumptions held by those within it, can really get under a person's skin. It can affect their feelings, their behaviour, and ultimately their health and their happiness too. Endless rounds of meetings, normalising and rewarding, working beyond normal hours, overloading capable people with too much work, all of these things hinder an employee's ability to do the job well and to have the rest time that they need outside of work in order to stay healthy and well. Those negative daily experiences build over time and they can lead people to burnout. Leaders set the organisational culture within any organisation, and so they can change it by making changes to people's daily experiences. It makes a lot more impact to do that than releasing a revised mission statement or making a nice speech, because what really matters to people is what work is really like for them day in, day out. Leadership at whatever level influences organisational culture and burnout. Clearly, if a leader themselves is burnt out, exhausted, cynical, detached, hopeless, helpless, then their staff are going to struggle too. And they're going to struggle not to burn out themselves. That's why it's crucially important that leaders understand burnout and that they do all that they can do to avoid it themselves. They must model healthy behaviours themselves for their own sake and in also to set the right tone for other people. A leader who avoids burnout can still cause burnout in others though, and that's really important to recognise. There are different kinds of leaders, different kinds of leadership styles, and it's really important as a leader to recognise, to acknowledge your own leadership style and to give some thought to whether your leadership style is impacting or how it is impacting on the organisational culture within your workplace, within your organisation. Great leaders have the potential to lead transformation within their organisation. And the ideal style of leadership is transformational leadership, which encompasses the 4 I's. So idealised influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualised consideration. Whatever the style of leadership that you employ, it's essential to understand burnout, to recognise burnout in other people as well as yourself, and to be aware of the wider organisational culture within which you are operating. With this knowledge and this understanding, you can take anti-burnout action within your organisation. You can build a culture of organisational safety within your business, your organisation, and consequently a high-performing organisation, one that people will want to work for, yourself included. So before I wrap up, I would like to leave you with my top tips for building an anti-burnout culture within any organisation, no matter the sector or the size or type of organisation. Here are some top tips for building an anti-burnout culture. Make the workplace psychologically safe. So, I mean, that's quite a big statement really, isn't it? But we need to create a space, a place where people are not afraid to speak up and where they know they will be heard. We need to all be honest about and clear about our work capacity. We need to communicate our needs and our expectations clearly, all of us, including leaders. We need to establish and maintain healthy boundaries. You know, healthy boundaries enable self-care, enable a healthy work-life balance. And on that one, we need to always aim for a healthy work-life balance. You know, they're words that we use very often, but what we need to do is to make sure that our intention, the intention behind everything that we do, is always to aim for a healthy work-life balance. We need to ensure that leaders always model that healthy work-life balance as well. So don't just talk about it. We need to be sure that our leaders are modeling those behaviours as well. And we need to be really careful that we don't overload the most capable people within our organisations. So two more things. So keep meetings short. Only have them when they are really essential. Many of us have got into this culture of having meetings for the sake of having meetings. So only have them when we need to, and keep them short and to the point wherever possible. And then finally, take time off. Make sure that we're taking time off. There's nothing heroic in not taking annual leave. You know, whether you are an employee or a leader within an organisation, take time off. And when you are off work, make sure that you're switching off. So I'm at the end of my time today. I really hope you've enjoyed the session and taken something of value away, and enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.